3 years ago, almost nobody believed Tesla could be threatened. It wasn't just the biggest electric vehicle company in the world, it was the company people associated with the future itself. When people talked about self-driving cars, they talked about Tesla. When they imagined a world powered by artificial intelligence, they pictured Tesla at the center of it. Investors poured in billions. Customers waited months for deliveries. And competitors, most people assumed they were playing for second place. But while the world was busy watching Tesla, something unusual was happening on the other side of the planet. A company that many people outside China barely paid attention to was quietly building an empire. Not with flashy presentations, not with viral product launches, and not with promises about a distant future. Instead, it focused on something much simpler, making cars, a lot of them. And by the time the rest of the world noticed, it was already too late to ignore. Today, that company is forcing one of the most powerful brands in the automotive industry to look over its shoulder. And the most surprising part is that this didn't happen because of a single breakthrough or a revolutionary invention. It happened because of a series of decisions that, at first, looked almost boring. But those decisions would eventually change the balance of power in the global EV industry. The question is simple. How did a company that most people underestimated become the biggest threat Tesla has ever faced? The answer starts in a place most people never think. About Dot, not inside a showroom. Dot, not inside a boardroom, but inside a battery. For years, Tesla followed a strategy that seemed impossible to beat. Build desirable electric cars, push technology forward faster than everyone else, and create a brand that felt years ahead of the competition. It worked brilliantly. Tesla became the company everyone wanted to copy. But while Tesla was chasing the future, another company was studying the present. It noticed something important. Most customers weren't asking for robotaxis, they weren't asking for humanoid robots, and they weren't asking for artificial intelligence. They wanted reliable cars, affordable cars, cars they could charge quickly, drive safely, and keep for years without worrying about expensive repairs. That realization became the foundation of an entirely different strategy. Instead of building the most exciting electric vehicle, the company focused on building the most practical one. At first, nobody saw the danger. Investors certainly did, in single quotes, to Wall Street continued rewarding Tesla with valuations that placed it among the most valuable companies on Earth. The company wasn't being judged as a car manufacturer anymore. It was being valued as a technology company, an AI company, and perhaps even the architect of a future economy. Meanwhile, its rival was viewed as something much less glamorous, just another car company. But there was one problem with that. Assumption. The numbers were beginning to tell a different story. Slowly at first, then all at once. Vehicle sales started climbing. Production capacity expanded, new factories appeared, and markets that once belonged almost entirely to Tesla suddenly became competitive. What looked like a small challenge was turning into something much bigger. And this is where the story starts to get uncomfortable, because the company's biggest advantage wasn't its cars, it wasn't its marketing, and it wasn't its prices. Its biggest advantage was something most customers would never see. It had built control over nearly everything. While many automakers depended on long supply chains stretching across multiple companies and countries, this company made batteries, motors, electronics, semiconductors, and critical components itself. That single decision changed everything. Because when competitors faced shortages, it could keep producing when raw material prices increased. It had more control over costs. And when the industry entered a brutal price war, it could survive longer than many expected. But this only matters once you see what happened next. The battery race wasn't just about range anymore. It became a battle over something even more important: trust. Most people assume battery technology is all about driving farther. But for millions of buyers, the bigger question is much simpler. Is it safe? Can I afford it? Will it last? And this is where the gap between the two strategies became impossible to ignore. One company pursued maximum performance. The other pursued maximum practicality. One focused on pushing technological limits. The other focused on making electric vehicles accessible to ordinary families. Neither approach was obviously wrong, but they were leading toward completely different futures. And as customers began comparing price tags, something unexpected happened. The expensive option stopped looking inevitable. For the first time, buyers could choose a cheaper vehicle without feeling like they were sacrificing much in return. That shift sounds small. It wasn't, because once consumers start asking whether a premium brand is worth paying extra for, the entire market begins to change. And that question would soon trigger a chain reaction that neither company could fully control. The price cuts started like ordinary business decisions. A discount here, a promotion there, then another reduction, and another soon. What began as competition turned into a full-scale price war. Across the EV industry, companies were forced to respond. Margins shrank. Profits tightened. Executives who had once celebrated growth suddenly found themselves fighting to protect market share. But one company seemed unusually comfortable in the chaos, because it had prepared for this moment years earlier. Every time prices fell, competitors felt pain. It felt opportunity. The lower prices went, the harder it became for traditional manufacturers to keep up. Companies that relied heavily on suppliers watched their costs remain stubbornly high. Some could cut prices temporarily, but very few could do it repeatedly without damaging their business. Yet somehow, this company kept finding room to move, and customers noticed. Families, who had never considered an electric vehicle, suddenly found one within reach. First-time buyers entered the market. Drivers who once assumed EVs were luxury products started seeing them as realistic alternatives to gasoline cars. The market wasn't just growing anymore, it was expanding into entirely new groups of customers, and every new customer strengthened the company's position. But success created a new challenge. Making affordable cars is one thing. Building enough of them is something else entirely. Demand can destroy a company just as quickly as a lack of demand if production can't keep up. That's where the next surprise emerged. Most people think factories are boring. Rows of machines, assembly, lines, workers, and robots repeating the same tasks. But sometimes the most important battles in business happen inside buildings most customers will never visit, because factories determine who can scale and who cannot. And while attention remained focused on Tesla's famous gigafactories, another manufacturing network was quietly becoming one of the largest automotive operations in the world. The scale was difficult to comprehend. Entire industrial complexes spread across areas so large they resembled small cities. Production lines operated at speeds that allowed new vehicles to roll out constantly. Every improvement in efficiency translated into lower costs and faster expansion. And expansion was happening everywhere. Asia, Europe, Latin America, new markets opened one after another. New dealerships appeared, new factories followed. The company wasn't just exporting cars anymore, it was planting roots, building local operations, preparing for a future where electric vehicles would no longer be a niche product, they would simply be cars. And for a moment, it looked unstoppable. Sales climbed, production surged, market share expanded. Then reality arrived, because every period of rapid growth eventually encounters resistance. And this resistance was coming from multiple directions at once. Competition intensified. Governments introduced new tariffs. Domestic rivals became more aggressive. Consumers gained more choices than ever before. Suddenly, being the fastest-growing company in the industry meant carrying the heaviest expectations. Investors wanted higher profits. Customers wanted lower prices. Governments wanted local production. The market wanted everything at the same time, and satisfying all those demands would prove far more difficult than building millions of vehicles. This was the moment many people expected Tesla to regain complete control. After all, Tesla still possessed advantages that few companies could match. Its brand remained one of the strongest in the world. Its charging network continued to provide a powerful advantage. And perhaps most importantly, Tesla was no longer focused solely on cars. While competitors fought for vehicle sales, Tesla was investing in something much bigger. Artificial intelligence, autonomous, driving. Energy systems. Robotics, projects that sounded almost disconnected from the automotive business itself. To critics, they looked like distractions. To supporters, they looked like the next chapter, and nobody knew which interpretation was correct. That's what made the situation so fascinating, because the battle was no longer happening on a single battlefield. One company was trying to dominate transportation today. The other was trying to define transportation tomorrow. One strategy produced immediate results, the other promised future rewards, and the world couldn't decide which approach would ultimately matter more. The strange part is that both companies may be right. History is full of examples where the company with the best product lost. It's also full of examples where the company with the biggest vision failed to turn that vision into reality.